Good morning, viewers of HTV. Thanks for joining us once more for your favorite program entitled Week Review. Remember, the first part of this program does a recap of the news that ran throughout the week. In the second part of this program, we are going to receive our guest, OROCK ARREY, who is a political analyst. With him, we are going to analyze the main subject of this week. Next, William Tadum will later join us here in this podium. We are going to talk of the chronic. The last but not the least, we are going to have a rubric entitled No Comment. For now, don't go far. We'll be right back just after this pause. Let's open this other edition of your program entitled Week Review in Politics. The junior MPs were speaking in Yaoundé this Thursday during their 21st ordinary session that took place under the chairmanship of the House of Speaker, Honorable Kavayege Jibril, members of the government and representatives of some international partners. During the session, the children addressed some trending issues affecting some of their mates, such as the need for every child to own a birth certificate and the fight against drug abuse in a school milieu. They were speaking on the occasion of this ordinary session. Let's have an excerpt of this children parliamentarian that was speaking on the occasion of this event.
Drug consumption, my message to them is they should stop inhaling drugs, consuming or even selling, because it leads to many dangers. Like they can become mad, foolishness. Yes, it attacks their intent.
Equally present at this ceremony, the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irene Nkele, she called upon the children deputy to go back home with these messages as well as implementing them in their different regions. Let's have an excerpt of Irene Pauline Nkele.
These children are models today because they have been selected. We expect them to protect our nation from what they have learned today. We expect them to promote the values of our nation. We expect them to go back and try to be the relays for peers, in our society, in their communities, in their families. So we expect them to be examples.
Still in this edition of the Week Review, the Archbishop of Bamenda, his Lordship Cornelius Fontem Eswa, was this Wednesday, 12 hours later, after spending a night in captivity in the restive northwest regions of the country, released. The Archbishop was kidnapped alongside his driver on Tuesday, June 25th, and alongside his driver in the Jinikenjem in Boyo division of the northwest region, after armed separatists blocked the road. All attempts to release him were futile, but he was only set free in the early hours of Wednesday as he headed to Bamenda. Still in this edition of your program entitled Week Review, the women of the platform known as Peace Crusade this Tuesday gathered at the Croix Rouge to advocate for peace and the end of violence in the country. Coming from the 10 regions of Cameroon, these women called for peace to reign in these regions of the northwest and southwest in conflicts for more than 2 years already. Been engaged in this fight, these patriotic women will from the 2nd to the 3rd of July 2009 organize activities which aims at promoting peace in the country. The president of this association was answering to the questions of Esther Bebeng. Let's have a view of this excerpt.
We are here today with youth and religious and leaders, all religion, saying that enough is enough. Too much violence, too much war, and today we are saying that it's good that all the stakeholders, all the shareholders, all citizens should look how to sit somewhere and say we want to dialogue, a true dialogue, an inclusive one, and on that table we will draw the map, we will draw the agenda of the dialogue. We cannot yet say no to dialogue if we don't know what we are going to say there. That is the reason why tomorrow at this same hall we are going to launch a national campaign of women for peace, women for the restoration of peace in Cameroon, and women for the end of violence. That is the reason of our presence here today.
The anti-Biya protesters, commonly known as anti-Sardina brigade, confronted some element of the presidential security, accompanying the head of state Paul Biya and his wife. Sources say when the anti-Biya protesters got wind of the president's presence and the at the Intercontinental Hotel, some of them hurriedly gathered and tried to force their way into the presidential couple. This led to violent confrontation between the two opposing camps. In the meantime, a huge anti-Biya demonstration is being planned for this Saturday. It is noted that members of the BAS had promised to disrupt the stay of the presidential couple anywhere in Europe and in America, where they are going to find themselves. We continue. We talk about economic in this program. The first structured economic dialogue was held this Tuesday, 25th of June, between Cameroon and the European women. This meeting has been organized to favor exchanges and mutual understanding of the Cameroonian government priorities in terms of economic development and the European Union stance on the prospect to increase cooperation between the two parties. The head of the EU delegation to Cameroon was speaking to the press at the Hilton Hotel on this occasion. Let's have a view of these excerpts.
No, we're having dialogue to exchange on the vision of economic and social development in Cameroon and of our partnership. This was the first edition of a structured dialogue on our economic relationship. So we're looking at the future with a particular emphasis on the role of the private sector. So I'm very pleased with the quality and the subject of our discussions, because for the first time we not only had administration and government officials and EU officials on the other side, but also partners from the private sector.
Present at this ceremony, the Minister of Economic, the Minister Delegate of Economic and ministers involved in the discussion, as well as other economic operators. The Minister Delegate of Economic Planning and Regional Development equally outlined the importance of this ceremony to private industries. He was answering to some of the questions of the press on this occasion.
We are very proud that finally we've been able to hold the very first structured economic dialogue between Cameroon and the European Union. We have agreed that henceforth we will be meeting once a year to share the prospects of the outlook of the economy of Cameroon, to share the priorities, the future priorities for the economic development of Cameroon. Particularly for today, our focus was on how to enable the private sector play a key role in terms of participating in growing the economy of Cameroon, in terms of participating in solving the problems of Cameroonians. We all know and accept that we have a problem of youth employment in this country, and we can't possibly meet up with the challenges of youth employment if the private sector is not playing a key role in the economy. Because we know and we accept, I think everybody agrees to this effect, that the biggest creator of wealth, the biggest creator of employment is definitely the private sector and not the public sector.
From henceforth, as the minister delegate was saying, the private sector is going to be more involved in the economic growth of the country. The next rendezvous is taken for June 2020, where the resolutions taken are going to be verified. We continue. A workshop has been organized this Wednesday, 26th of June in Yaoundé for the presentation of the plan of industrialization of Cameroon. Experts from different sectors gathered to reread the document in question, as well as doing some modifications ahead of its finalization. Chaired by the Minister of Mines and Technological Development, Gabriel Dodondoke, the work carried out so far has been presented to the staff present. He was answering to some of the questions of the press. Let's have a view.
This workshop has been organized for a review of what has been done since 2016, when the document was in discussion by the different administrations implicated in the construction of our industrial plan policy. So today we have come here to do a review of what has been done, as I said now, for us to prepare the step of operationalization.
This industrialization plan is going to help in the economic and industrial growth of our country, Cameroon. To the trade fair to encourage retired persons to join entrepreneurial was launched this Wednesday by the Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Isachirumar Bakari. The event that kicked up on Thursday ended this Friday. The head of this ministry called on retired persons to stop being dependent and rather embrace entrepreneurship. This will go a long way in the development of our country, Cameroon. He was equally answering to the questions of Joel Patrick and Bane on this occasion. Let's have a view.
The government decided to stand by them and to give them all the necessary support they need to move forward, because to go on retirement is not the end of it. It is not the end of life. This is a new beginning. They have to write new chapters, because they have to have their place within the society, within our people, because at this age they have an immense capital of knowledge and know-how which they are ready to share. We have to listen, be ready to give them what they need, because the promotion and the development of our nation go.
This trade fair will go a long way to encourage retired persons to join entrepreneurship, as well as leading in the development of our country, Cameroon. The Secretary General of the Minister of Basic Education has presided over a workshop that aims at evaluating the needs of children who don't have access to education. To better tackle this issue, the non-governmental organizations known as the Norwegian Refugee Council this Thursday, alongside the government, proceeded in the elaboration of a chronogram that will serve as a guideline. In Cameroon, 19.7% children aged from 6 to 11 years do not have the possibility of going to school. This non-governmental organization organizations has contributed so far in the amelioration of this children situation. The representative of these non-governmental organizations was answering to some questions of the press. Let's have a view of her excerpt.
The Norwegian Refugee Council has been in operation since the 1930s, and education is at the core of what we do. We are globally in over 40 countries. We respond to crises in the world, people that are affected by different crises. At the moment, we've been in Cameroon since 2017, and we've responded to needs. And to us, having started out in the far north, we found education a very acute need, and in line with the humanitarian response plan for this country, it's imperative that we are able to work with other actors and the government to ensure the children have an opportunity to go to school, education being a basic right. And that's where we come from, to be able to work alongside the government to support the children to be able to access education. In Cameroon so far, the very important step that we have done, especially in the far north, at the moment that's where we have education activities, we have been able to provide scholastic materials to children to go to school. We've had a number of schools that have been rehabilitated, and we've also been able to provide some basic training for teachers. And at the moment, this is our basic next step to ensure that we have a curriculum that would use to enroll children that are out of school, for them to be able to get some accelerated learning, to be able to have some catch-up for the lessons that they have missed.
These non-governmental organizations has done so much for these children who don't have access to education, and I think the next step, as she said in the excerpt, is going to implement other things that are going to help these children that don't have access to education to be able to benefit from this very essential need. Still in this edition of your program, according to a study carried out in 2018 on the health situation of the inhabitants of the northwest and southwest region of the country, and equally the far north, 14,000 persons die each year from HIV and tuberculosis in this zone. To this effect, workshop has been organized this week. It had as objective to analyze the health situation of these citizens, as well as outlining the cause of the increase of mortality rate due from these illnesses. Organized by the Cameroon National Association for Family Welfare, and strategies on how to limit these illnesses were elaborated. This workshop will go a long way to help these persons suffering from HIV and AIDS, as well as tuberculosis in these regions of the country. We talk other things in this edition of your program. Widows of the anciens combattants et victimes de guerre have organized a trade fair this week to showcase the various Cameroonian dishes. This come together has objective to portray the competitiveness of these widows. This trade fair was equally the occasion to commemorate the World Widow Day, celebrated every 23rd of June in the world. This day is observed to draw equally attention to the voices and experiences of widows, to galvanize the unique support that they need. So the women of these associations organize this trade fair to help bring out certain fund, into raise certain fund. They are estimated about 258 million widows around the world, and nearly 1 in 10 live in extremely poverty. As women, they have specific needs, but their voices and experiences are often absent from policies that impact their survival. We talk culture in this other edition of your program. Hundreds of Michael Jackson's fans gathered at his grave for a day-long celebration of his life and music this Tuesday, with some traveling thousands of miles to join in the singing sing-alongs, selfies, and moments of silence that mark the 10th anniversary of the death of the King of the Pop 10 years ago. Today, the world lost a gifted artist, an extraordinary humanitarian, the estate said in a statement to the Associated Press. A decade later, Michael Jackson is still present. His influence is still embedded in dance, fashion, and arts, and equally music. Michael Jackson's fans are still cry him, and we say, may his soul continue to rest in peace. We talk sport. In this edition, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon kick off the 2019 a 2-0 victory over Guinea-Bissau on Tuesday in Ismaili, Egypt. Second half goals from Yaya Banana and substitute Stefan Baoken gave Cameroon their first opening win in a major competition since 2006. Guinea-Bissau put up a spirited fight in the first half and frustrated the indomitable Lions, who were guilty of poor finishing. However, the Lions finally break the dreadlock when Yaya Banana rose high to knock home a corner from Joko Ekambi. 2 minutes later, substitute Stefan Baoken took advantage from some atrocious defending from Guinea-Bissau to slot home the second goal. As they await the next clash against Ghana this Saturday, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon and their supporters are still enjoying their victory. We remain in sport, but this time around we talk about Marc-Vivian Foé forever. The 16th death anniversary of the Cameroonian footballer Marc-Vivian Foé has been commemorated this Wednesday by his family and fan during a church service that was being observed on his behalf. The touring midfielder collapsed and died during Cameroon's semi-final clash against Colombia at the 2003 Confederations Cup in France. The team did not only lose a valuable asset, but the nation wept for its son as the football world came to a standstill. Marc-Vivian Foé went too soon with several projects that he had in mind. Equally to Marc-Vivian Foé, may his soul continue to rest in perfect peace. We remain in sport. Another victory has been recorded for the sport diplomacy in Cameroon with the election of Odette Angunu as member of the International Olympic Committee this Wednesday, 26th of June 2009. Congratulations already. It is during the IOC session taking place in Lausanne, Switzerland, that Angulu was given this international recognition. President of the Cameroon Badminton Federation, Vice President of the Cameroon National Olympic Sports Committee, and member of the Executive Bureau of the African Confederation of Badminton. She has proven beyond a reasonable doubt her capacity in managing the sport organizations. So we can say power to the women, and once more congratulations to her. We still talk sport. The champions of the 2019 edition Cup of Nations of Judo discipline is already known. Panther de Yaoundé comes out first of these competitions, which oppose 8 different clubs divided in 4 pools. Both the men and the women took part in the competitions, assisted by a huge crowd. It ended with the award of prizes to the first 3 best clubs. The University of Douala occupies the second position in this game. The president of the Judoka Federation was answering to the question of Gabriel Gabriel Messina. Let's have a view of these excerpts.
Cup of Cameroon is very, very big. Cup of Cameroon. We have the 8th best judo club in Cameroon, and I think it's good for the federation because we have to see the young judo player who make the good job, because when we are in our clubs we have to work for the national championship. We will take part on July, but I think it's good for us because the national technical direction make a plan for training of the judo club, and every judo clubs have to follow the training plan and the training protocol.
We should equally note that the Cameroon's Cup of Nations in football is going to be played this Sunday, 30th of June. Dear viewers, we have come to the second part of this program entitled The Guest. Don't go far, we shall be right back just after this pause. Here we are in the second part of this program entitled The Guest. As I earlier announced in our headlines, today we are receiving OROCK ARREY. Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
It's not the first time. How do you do?
I'm okay. And you?
I'm very fine.
Good.
You're welcome once more to Ash TV. You are political analyst. We should precise to our viewers. And today we are going to talk about the anti-Biya protesters in Switzerland, more precisely. Yes. So to you, I'm going to ask you, what perception do you have about the brigade anti-Sardina? What perception do you have about it?
First of all, the Brigade Anti-Sardina is a movement created in Europe by some Cameroonian diasporans. This was in a bid to vow that President Biya should leave power either through elections or by the streets.
Yes.
And the other side, we also had the Brigade Anti-Tontina, which is fighting against the Brigade Anti-Sardina.
Yes.
The Brigade Anti-Sardina came up as because the militants of Cameroon Renaissance movement, who are based in Europe, said people who are voting President Biya are those who are fond of giving them sardine. That's why they say that they call them anti-Sardina. And the other side, anti-Tontina, because most of those people who are in Professor Maurice Kamto's party are doing tontins, what we call jangi in English. So you ask the question that my perception about what happened to President Biya in Geneva, precisely in intent.
What perception even do you have about them, first of all? What look? That is, how do you can you project them? Are they good, bad?
To me,
yes.
My perception about the Brigade Anti-Sardina is negative. Why? Because we have problems in Cameroon, it's not abroad, and secondly, violence is not everything. They can demonstrate, manifest like citizens from other countries are doing without aggressing people physically. The Brigade Anti-Sardina most of the times are Cameroonians who are jobless in Europe, because I do believe if people who are working cannot have time to be going up and down, making noise, breaking things, causing havoc, occupying spaces on social media day and night, insulting the regime, insulting President Biya, to me, I find them to be nocive. I find them to be negative people. I find them to be people of no value.
Well, they gathered at the Intercontinental Hotel where the President Biya and his wife decided to sojourn. So I would like to ask you about the act that they actually perpetrated there, the confrontation between some elements of the presidential guard with this anti-Sardina brigade. What can you say about it?
To me, as I started saying, this occurred on Wednesday in Intercontinental in Geneva, Switzerland, where President Biya and Madame Chantal Biya on a private visit. They came into the halls of the Hotel Intercontinental, trying to force themselves into the room of the head of state. They were blocked by presidential guards who are protecting President Biya. To me, all these actions which they are doing is negative, and what I can say is that I would say it without mixing my words, that the country Switzerland is in connivance with those people, because the Minister of External Relations sent a note days before the head of state was going to Geneva that people of that caliber will disturb the President Paul Biya's visit. That's why even President Paul Biya worked with his own personal bodyguards. Per se, the Geneva Conventions of 1961, which was ratified in 1964, spelling out diplomatic conventions, a head of state, being a private or official visit, has a right to be protected by the country hosting the head of state. So leaving the head of state to be attacked by bandits of that caliber is a big slap to diplomatic rules.
So should we fear for the president's life and his wife?
Why not? Those guys, if the guards were not present, they would have done worse, maybe even attack the head of state physically. So those guys are not people who are to be encouraged. And let me say things the way they are.
Yeah.
In the diplomatic sector, you cannot accept that a colleague or a head of state should be aggressed like that. You see, when head of state and other diplomats come to Cameroon, how streets are being cut off because we have to respect them, cater for their security, but there's no reciprocity in these diplomatic relations, and which is
I think the president of Switzerland equally actually even right now they are looking for ways out on how they can solve, because they think all this emanate from the problem of the Anglophone in the Anglophone crisis. So they are actually looking for means. So when you say the government of Switzerland actually it's as if they are in collaborations with this with the bus, I don't really know what to say.
You know what is there is diplomacy. What you see ahead is not what is behind.
Yeah.
If they knew that they were to protect, and if they knew that the head of state was to be protected by them,
yes,
that's just a flimsy excuse that the head of state went to Switzerland for mediation or negotiation so that the Anglophone crisis should be resolved. If that was the case, they would have put security guards before the head of state coming, before, during, and even after his visit. It's true that we have the Department of the Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland, and you have also the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, those organizations are put forward to try to see in a way that this Anglophone crisis can be resolved. But to resolve a crisis, then creating another one, is a big slap to diplomacy. You cannot say that the head of state went there for a private visit so that the Anglophone crisis should be resolved. Then the brigade artist Sardina are also bringing another conflict. It means they don't want the conflict in Cameroon to be resolved, because you cannot go to resolve another conflict then behind another conflict is being
talking
created.
About the resolution of this conflict, I think normally the CPDM, being the president's party, they're actually fighting for this conflict to be resolved, but the president actually of the CPDM party there at Geneva promised to counter the attack, because they promised to come back in force this Saturday, then promising to counter this attack, or like maybe to fight back. Is it going to help? Because I think by doing that they are not helping in the solving of this problem. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's the head of state or the government saying that those who are supporting the head of state, that's the brigade anti-Tontina, that they are going to repose against the brigade anti-Sardina.
Yes.
But like the head of state said, a menace égale à repose égale. When someone is coming with force and you talk in a soft language the person doesn't want to hear, you apply force.
But what is the CPDM party present at? What are they supposed to do? That is the CPDM party that's present at Geneva. What is their role actually? What can they do to help to sort this problem?
I don't think the CPDM party is in Geneva. Is the head of state who is there. The head of state is different.
I mean, the president of the CPDM party of Geneva present there actually, because they promised to counter the attack of this Friday. So that's what I'm talking.
Yeah, what is there is that
they are the best thing to do.
They are there to discuss about how the Anglophone crisis will be resolved, but we should not fail to understand that those who are there in Geneva are looking the way forward to the Anglophone crisis. But the brigade anti-Sardina, which is not directly concerned with the Anglophone crisis, they want to cause chaos. That's why those who are brigade anti-Sardina, they are not forcefully from the CPDM party. They are people from all walks of life, all Cameroonians from all walks of parties. being from the CPDM opposition who are supporting the head of state, said they are going to counter those people if they come back again on Saturday, and that is what they are going to do. To me, violence is not the best thing to do, but if you speak in a diplomatic language, people don't want to listen, apply violence. There are only two methods of solving a conflict. You have the soft method, which is dialogue, and dialogue, and you have the hard method, which is war, and fight. So that's it. So if people don't want to listen, the soft language, that you should lay your arms down, you should, President Pobe has been elected, people should wait, and so that the next presidential election, you go for another presidential election, municipal, legislative, and regional elections are on the way. They should prepare for that, for those elections, not to go and be causing chaos. Cameroon has a lot of problems, and we don't need problems again. CDC is down, Sonara is partly down, Pamo is down, and other places in the northwest. The economy is suffering. We don't need people to come and be causing more problems into Cameroon, and you have many youths who are jobless.
Do you think this confrontation or this conflicts can affect the that is a Cameroon internal policy?
Why
going to affect it?
Why not? It's facing, because we have militants of Cameroon Renaissance movement who are here in Cameroon. They are jubilating on social network that they are going to show President Pobe what he hasn't seen, that are not there. 7 years which they gave him again is a 7 years of over 7 years that they don't want that and the rest. So it has galvanized their spirit, because we saw that they had a low spirit before this thing happened. So it has galvanized them. You go on social network, Facebook, Twitter, you read what they are writing is terrible. So they are happy. It's going to affect a bit our national policy, a bit our internal security, because those who are here, we still have that courage to go and march. That because they have supporters from abroad.
Talking about this impact, apart from the CPDM party, the other parties did not react after this confrontation. What do you think can explain that, the silence of these other parties?
No, they reacted. If you follow the news of 1 p.m., you hear that they reacted. You have Espoir Matomba who reacted, Celestin Bizigi who reacted. You also had Bapoli Pod who reacted. So those are opposition parties which reacted. It's not that they didn't react. They reacted at 1 p.m. news yesterday.
But you know, this confrontation promised to continue this Saturday. So I'm asking, what do you think can be done to solve or to resolve these problems? Because we know conflicts and confrontations can't really help in the development of our country, because you mentioned so many things of which we are down already. So what can be done on the side of the president of Switzerland, on our side here? What can be done to resolve this conflict with the diaspora?
To me, the president of Switzerland should mount more security to counter those people. And more to that, there is one guy who is called Martin Tajo, who was one of those people demonstrating. He has been repatriated back to Cameroon and his citizenship withdrawn. If they do like that to 1, 2, 3 people, they will take their stand that we are in a country of law. It's true that there is also freedom of movement and expression, but everything has its limits. You cannot go to the extent of attacking the head of state. The head of state is an institution, the first institution of the country. You cannot go by attacking the head of state thinking that it's your fundamental right for you to manifest and to sing. Yeah, you can manifest by shouting, holding pancards, demonstrate. That's demonstration, basic human rights of freedom. But you cannot go and aggress someone physically. That's violating the person's own right, and which is condemned by the Universal Declarations of Human Rights of 1948.
Let's conclude this exchange. One word to the anti-Santina brigade. One word to them. What would you say?
My brothers and sisters, I'm looking into your eyes and I'm telling you that everything is being done in Cameroon. If you want to do politics, come and do it in Cameroon. Politics is not being done abroad there. What you are doing there is just causing destruction, wasting your time, and more to that, your families are in jeopardy in Cameroon. You should not forget that you have families here in Cameroon. You people should think twice before doing anything, because anything we do today, it shall surely catch us tomorrow.
Thank you very much, OROCK ARREY. Thanks equally for coming. This was the exchange with OROCK ARREY, political analyst. It's always good to mention. Don't go far. We'll shall be right back just after this pause for the next rubric entitled The Chronic. Here we are, William Tadoum. Good morning.
Good morning, Imelda.
How do you do?
As I used to do, I'm very fine this morning.
So what are we going to talk about today?
This morning we are going to talk about African Cup of Nations, African Cup of Nations, Egypt 2019. It's going on since few days, but what we can notice is that the celebration is so cold. It is a fact, and football fans are very disappointed because of that. Why? What is going on? The situation is so easy to explain. Look how the stadiums are empty. The Egyptian seems not interested by this this African Cup of Nations. In such a competition, what is true is that the spectators are stakeholders of the game. They are actors, and without them, a football match can be ipso facto boring. For the for the case of the current African Cup of Nations, the competition, we notice that during the competition, the stadium are full as they are supposed to be only when the organizing nation are playing. In fact, we don't really know what is going on. Is it a racial problem or a lack of interest? But at the end, we can conclude that this situation is another great disappointment. No one really appreciates it. Look very well. When the non-Maghrebin countries are playing, you will not see local football fans really engaged. They are not really supporting others African nations, especially black African nation, or especially when black Africans nation are playing. The reality is that such attitude is not fair. Such attitude seems to be a treat for African football. Sometimes something must be done to change it. Something must happen to change the situation. It is not fair to celebrate football in this way, because elsewhere when we talk about Champions League, Copa America, or the World Cup, we talk about a serious rendezvous between players, supporters, and the telespectators. Football encounter is a moment of expression of emotion. It seems to be no more a continental rendezvous that we are waiting for, or that we are that is going on. It is not what viewers were expecting or are expecting to leave. The lack of public killed the warm supposed to keep lively the stadium. This is a so special Cup of Nations, negatively talking, and it could be one of the most boring one. In certain manner, it is a failure. We can notice an identity crisis, a non-contact culture, or hating football people. We can notice, according to the situation, an identity crisis or a non-contact culture, or we can just conclude that the Maghrebins are hating football people. It is clear that the next time, the organizer of the event will have to consider that aspect of the issue before attributing the organization of the African Cup of Nations to another nation, because for the moment it is another shame for Africa. Cameroon is the next one, the next organizing country on the list, and the issue is a call for us. That is all.
The issue is a call for us. You heard William Tadoum so well. We're talking about the African Cup of Nations, but William, is that embarrassing?
It's so embarrassing, because when we talk about football, we talk about emotion, we talk about people screaming, people shouting, singing here and there, and we can observe with this African Cup of Nations that things are not going like that, and we have not seen it before, and we are not very familiar with such situation, with such issue, and it is very embarrassing.
So what difference can we do with the last African Cup of Nations?
The people, the stadium were very full, and people were there to support players. Yeah. Now what we observe is that sometimes the stadium seems to be empty, as there is no one able to come and support, not supporting any country, but supporting the football, and it is a deep disappointment.
Mindful the fact Cameroon won their first match with the Guinea-Bissau.
Yes, and what we have to understand is that when people are shouting,
yes,
in the stadium, they are giving punch to those who are playing, pushing them to give more than they have, and even at home you feel what is going on the stadium because people are screaming and shouting. But when it is not the case as what we are seeing. It is very, very, very boring.
Thank you so much, William Tadum, for that crowning. I think we're going to remain with the African Cup of Nations to move to the next and the last rubric entitled No Comment. Let's have it. Well, it's the same joy that William is asking, but this time around it should be found on the side of the public. We have come to the end of this other edition of your program entitled Week Review. Before we go, we are going to thank Ledu Severin. We are equally going to thank William Tadum that was here with us. We will thank Vanessa Balogok, Mathieu Tanieu. We are going to thank equally William Kamga. And finally, our guest, OROCK ARREY, a political analyst that was here equally with us today. The next rendezvous is taken for Saturday when it's going to be 10:30 a.m. For now, bye-bye.